We are here at Imas home 2026. This is a great day. This is a
It
great day.
is amazing day.
Yes, sir. This is Andrea Mistades.
Yes.
Cool. I didn't want to butcher that name, so praise God I got it right.
Yeah.
And then everybody knows James Kilgore, Jim Kilgore, Bishop.
Yeah.
Give us all the titles. Just
The one that I prefer is Poppy for my grandkids and Papa Jim for my Imas home kids.
nice. All
Yeah.
right. We're here just to get Andrea's story today. So tell us a little bit about your experience at Imas home, and we'll just kind of go from there.
I'm Andrea, and I am now at my first year in college. I am doing social work, and I live outside. We have our apartment. Me and my friend Cherry. She lives here too, and she's a college student. And we go home for the weekends here at Imas, and help around and do our part-time job.
Nice. I'm going to go a little further back just for a second. You've been here for how many years?
13 now.
13 years. Crazy. So this is already part two. If you've already, watched some of these, you've seen her tell a bit of her story. So we're going to kind of pick up where we left off. Tell us a little bit about college and actually why you're pursuing what you're doing.
Well, I wanted to do social work since then because Mama Shini inspired me. She's a licensed social work, but also of what I see and what's my experience is, and I want to help someday. I want to work at IMAS and be part of this amazing plan of God.
That's awesome.
And I can just step in here and say that she has a guaranteed job for sure. My girl, she's studying to be a social worker with psychology. And really that's because you've seen the trauma that the kids have gone through. I mean, growing up here, you've seen some of the trauma that the kids have gone through. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
I remember growing up with these girls. They were really sad. They needed help. They had to deal with the result of the trauma that they deal with when they were kids, and it has affected them. And one of my friends here, she deals with a lot of sadness, and I've seen her through it, and it has affected our friendship. And I wanted to help, but I'm not in a position to help because I'm not a professional, and she needed professional help sometimes. And
Yeah, there's only so much you could do when you're not fully prepared. Like, even though your heart's in the right place, I've definitely heard of stories through counseling where people try to solve things on their own and they feel like they're in a safe place. But unfortunately, sometimes, no matter how good your intentions, it can backfire on you. And it's a hard place to be in because you see your family, you see them hurting, and you're just ill-equipped. So there's just tools that are out there, by going to school, by going to the proper channels to figure that out. So that's awesome. Just to kind of recap on your story just a little bit, she was telling us that abandoned by her mother and the father, pretty much took one of the boys, minus everybody, and then you got passed off to the grandma, and then you went to this like rehab place instead of like a child care, and then you got picked up by Mama Sheeny at this place, and that whole back and forth was super traumatic, I'm sure. And then you said all of that. You said your youngest was about like 8 or 9 months old. You were 7 years old. Insane. What a crazy story. It's one thing with firstborns being that motherly, responsible person that you become by just being a firstborn, but you were like fast forwarded through all of that. And so I'm sure that you have skills that a lot of people don't have naturally just from being in that situation. So it's so cool that you are that you're just going that extra step and seeing the need, and you're at the right place and time, going to school, and oh my gosh, it's just compounding how cool it is. So, Pastor, can you speak to that a little bit? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Just a few weeks, months after we started Imas, I was here, and I remember Sheeny telling me, we've got a family coming in tonight. They got in very late because Sheeny had gone down to get them, Andrea and her 4 siblings in Manila. But I remember that first morning, meeting Andrea. She was 7 years old, and I mean, from the beginning, she just had this natural ability to nurture, to help, to care for people. And I saw that not only towards her siblings, but just to everyone else. She's just always been a peacekeeper. And so, yes, there is the instant responsibility that she had when she went through the abandonment. I guess the thing that I really love is she's never resented the fact that she has to care for others. It's a natural thing for her to care for others. And I sure don't want to put any more pressure on her than I'm sure that life has already given her. But she is just a natural nurturer, a natural caring for people. So psychology is not something that's real big in the Philippines, and we've needed it. I have looked so hard to try and find people that could counsel, that can come on campus, and unfortunately, it just hasn't happened. Just now, we're getting organized on the state side to bring people in and start having these counseling sessions. And when Andrea told me that that's what she wanted to do with her life, I was just so thrilled because, first of all, it's something I know we desperately need. I think Andrea can attest to this. We try to give our kids the very best life they can have. I mean, we go overboard to try and make them happy, but there's something that we can never give them, and that's a life that is normal. You know, they have been abandoned, they have gone through the trauma, and sometime or another in their life, no matter how good things are, there is going to be those moments of trauma. Well, Andrea was mentioning it. I watched it too. I watched it with boys, girls. You know, it's just, it hits them. And to think that in the future we would have somebody that would be professionally trained to be here, it just thrills my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You were telling me a little bit earlier that psychology is kind of grouped into the social worker like title. Is that right? Or help me clarify that.
I've learned that when I ask social works, we can do counseling. When we are already licensed to be a social work, we can also do counseling. That's what they do at school. We have a school social work, and that's what they do is to counsel. So, because it's also part of the psychology thing. Yeah.
What you're going for right now, you said it's a bachelor's or master's, or is the same
Bachelor
process?
Science of Social Work.
What's the next step? So you do the Bachelor of Science in Social Work, and then it goes to?
Doing psychology is another degree that I have to study in if I want to be one, but I think we can do counseling if I have a license of social work.
Yeah. Now, when you finish these 2 years and you have your science, your Bachelor of Science of Social Work, is that when you take the board, or do you have to go 4 years?
4 years of social work and then board. Okay. And if I want to do psychology, I should get more years.
So when we say board, that's just a national test that they have to pass to be a licensed social worker.
Well, the future's bright. I know that there's one story particularly that is pretty impactful. Talk about the little man that you have helped before.
I want to jump in here.
Yeah.
Because it really, to see Andrea's relationship with Sebastian, man, it just touched my heart. Here in the Philippines, when a young lady turns 18, it's a pretty big deal. And we have these debuts and parties for the 18th birthday. And I happened to be able to be here for Andrea's 18th birthday. That was 2 years ago this March. This April. Okay. I was right in between. April 17th?
Yeah, 7.
April 7th. So when she turned 18, we had this big party, and it was awesome. We really had so much fun. But on one particular moment, we had this time when Andrea was dancing with the different people, you know, like a prom dance or a formal dance, and Sebastian came up and he just started bawling and hugging her, and it was just so precious to me, and obviously it was a real show that he was connected to her so deeply. And you know, since then I've watched, and anytime they're together, he's just hugging and around her, and he's I don't know, 10 years younger, 8 years younger than you. So that's awesome that you have that connection with him.
Absolutely.
How did that happen?
Me and Sebastian were like the first kids here at Imas, so we grew together, and I think it's because he trusted me and he feels comfortable to me that he considered me as his big sister, and that's I'm always there for him, so he think that we're very related like that. But growing up, he is a very mischievous boy, and he always gets into fight with the other boys like that. And um, between him and Guile, he's the oldest, but he needed someone older, so he always come for me for comfort, and mostly he needs someone to be on his side. He needs someone to be protective of him, and he needs me to defend him always. And mostly he's in the wrong side, but um, I always take his side, and also the peacemaker between the boys that he fights with like that. But he do the opposite with me. He did the same thing with me. He always comes and be protective of me and my siblings. He thought that he was part of my siblings too. So whenever someone talks bad about me or wants to be arguing with me, he always right there, and he always want to be the part of the. He always asks me, "Ate, you want me to fight them? You want me to do something about it like that?" And also with my other sibling, he's been very protective of my other siblings, especially Efren. April Shane, she and him are best friend, always sharing food and comforting each other like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
And someday he also wants to change his name into our name because he thought that.
It's so cute.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Andrea has been the peacemaker, but also the defender. And I'm going to tell one story. It may embarrass her a little bit, but we had somebody that was bullying and wouldn't stop. And so one particular day, Andrea had had enough. And even though she's very small in stature, she's a dynamite. And so as this other person was bullying, Andrea just balled up her fist and hit him in the stomach so hard. And that ended the.
That's right.
And the guy, or the person, I should say, well, of course we know it's a guy now. He was quite a bit bigger and stronger, but that pretty much taught him a lesson. It ended the bullying for that day for sure.
Nice. Was this an Imas kid or someone at school?
It was
an
Imas
Imas
kid.
kid?
Yeah.
But
We won't name names.
Yeah. Let's protect the innocent.
But I remember in my elementary days, there's always been a fight, and I'm always at the principal's office because I been
Step in the middle.
yeah, I'm being the hero for the Imas kids. We all know that we all get bullied because of our situation, calling us orphans like that. And we were young and we were immature, so we were very offended by that. So, and I'm one of the oldest, so whenever that happens, they always call for me, and there's always a punch fight at the back of the school. And I'm right now when we go to that school, they know me as that kind of girl who was always at the back of the school fighting boys for doing that. It's very embarrassing for me now.
But it's you.
Yeah.
It's you taking up for the other little kids that were being bullied. And I personally had a big sister that took up for me when I got bullied, so I love it. I think it's just the right thing. Of course, we don't want our kids to fight, but sometimes you have to.
You got to stand up for yourself.
That's right.
I'm definitely the parent that, hey, you'll get in trouble at school, but I'm going to be like, good job, kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going
Stand
to
up
be
for yourself.
bullied. It's another story if you become the bully. Anyways, we'll get there. My little man's 3. We got that to go.
The other thing that I love about Andrea, which I love everything about her. She's amazing. I love her so much. But I love how she not only protects a bunch of kids, but her siblings. I've watched her through the years just care for them, nurture them. She has 4 siblings here, and they are a year, 2 years younger, 3 years younger, 5 years younger, and almost 7 years younger. So they're quite a spread in age, but they're all incredible.
You said something a little bit ago about being called an orphan by the other kids and being treated differently. But can you tell me a little bit about how you view family now? It's different, of course. It's like you have a really large family with all the kids, but you also have Papa Jim who comes all the time, and now he's making larger stretches. But then you also have like the aunts and uncles. So how do you guys feel as a group, or you personally, about family?
Well, growing up, I came to understand that it doesn't have to be blood related. As long as someone loves you and show cares for you and kindness, that's all what matters. And someone that is protecting you and taking you inside their care and their home, that's what it matters. And I think people around me, like my parents and my teachers at the schools, they helped me to understand that, and all of the Imas kids, that it doesn't mean that you don't have parents. You have to understand and you have to appreciate that there are still people that cares for you and is doing their job to give you a better life, and that's what it matters. And that helps me growing up to understand that even though I don't have my friends here right now, it don't need for me to be lonely and compare myself for what's the outside like that. But sometimes I have to punch someone for them to
You gotta
understand
punch
that.
him into submission.
Yeah.
On that note, like you guys are 160 strong, 157 I think is the accurate number right now, ebbs and flows. I know it's one thing for you to be like one of 20, way back then, but now you guys are an army. You guys are a force to be reckoned
Yeah.
with, right? So how does that feel in the schools? Like how do people look at you guys now? Do they realize how big a number you guys are?
Yes, I've heard from the kids right now that at school they barely get bullied about that being orphan. It's mostly what they hear now is that you guys are the Imas, you guys are so lucky, you are so rich, you have everything. From what we are seeing, you guys are so lucky and so blessed like that. But the people that bullies them are the new ones that didn't know our story. So since we are a lot, our story is growing, and the community comes here and they get to see what's the life that we have here. So instead of bullying us, they feel jealous.
I get that. Whenever you come in through the neighborhoods,
Yeah.
the surrounding areas, and then you land.
Yeah, instead of the negative, it became a positive thing for us. Yeah.
Crazy. Crazy. What a wild life.
And a lot of the classmates of the kids, they would say, "Can you take me at Ima's home? I want to stay there for good." Like that.
What is Pastor? Maybe you can speak to this for the future. Right now, community stuff looks like the church on Sunday, and I know there's a lot of protection that needs to happen regarding the kids. So, is that something that y'all are thinking about, maybe for the future, of doing some kind of like community events here? Is that too like scary?
No, we definitely want to have an impact on the community, and we'll open our facilities for community to use it. Now, we do have safeguards in place, and we do have walls built at certain places where our kids have their own private space. We don't want our kids to feel like they're being intruded on. We want them to have the safety of their own home and their own space. And we've tried to be real careful about that. So in the future, we will, use our community center for community events, but we want the kids to participate in that as much as they want to, like the church services and things like that.
And I completely understand how an outsider would see what you guys have, and there's no better fitting word than oasis. There isn't. And
It's interesting for me to hear Andrea's viewpoint, because I, of course, hear all of the viewpoints for the Americans that come and guests that come. And they always talk about how beautiful it is and how peaceful it is. And so when I was listening to Andrea's interview from the other day and she was talking about how she feels peace, it just really made my heart so happy, because I always wanted them to grow up in a beautiful place and a peaceful place, you know.
Yeah, it made me think of the parents that, become empty nesters when their kids go off to college. So whenever you come back and you hear all the noise, you're like, okay. I'm living that now with a 3-year-old. I return home and there's toys all over the place. Well, anyways, thank you so much for being with us. Is there anything else that you want to cover before we kind of close out?
I also want to tell you about my mom.
Yeah.
So she was arrested back then, and she spent 10 years at the prison. And last year, she just got out of the jail, and it was very special time for me, because at those time I was turning 19, and I was spending time with God, and I just telling him that, God, it was like 12 years ago when I didn't get to see my mom, and now I'm turning 19, and I wish that she could be part of my.
Hey, we just had quite a moment here. Probably not something that you're going to see on the podcast, but as we're talking, Andrea opened up with a little bit about reconnecting with some of her family members, and it was just beautiful to, hear her faith and her strength in that. But it's just amazing to me. The first time I saw her, how much I admired her as just a 7-year-old little girl. She saw me as this white guy, didn't know what to think about me those first couple of days. I still remember how she's a little standoffish, like, what is going on here? But I'm so thankful. She finally started loving me, and that made my day.
Well, we stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, we do.
2 hours away from Manila, as we're walking through just like public places, the grocery store or like the malls that are over here, people are like just trailing us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild to be the exotic one. Anyways, Andrea, thank you so much for being with us and sharing with us your story and what's ahead. It's so exciting. It really is. And to be here, just kind of watching you grow and to hear about the future is truly exciting. So thank you so much for being yourself, really, and for what the future holds. So God is good. You're awesome.
Amen. She is. Thank you, Josh.
Yes, sir.